The sanction was manifestly inadequate. Those are the words from the AFL as they appeal Basher Hooley's tribunal verdict. A triple blow. Melbourne rule out 3 stars for a Friday night showdown with the Swans. And we get Adam Simpson's thoughts on Will Schofield's appeal and whether there's room for Sam Mitchell on the park next season. Hello and welcome to AFL Tonight. I'm Tom Chadwick. Well, a huge day in the history of the tribunal with the AFL appealing the 2-match ban handed down to Richmond's Basher Hooley. Julian de Stoop is at AFL House this evening. Jules, fair to say this is unprecedented.
Yeah, it sure is, Tom. The first time the AFL has appealed a tribunal decision. We all thought this would probably be the case last night when we walked out of the tribunal. I think most people there thought very, very surprising that Basher Hooley only got 2 weeks. I think even judging by the looks on the faces of the Richmond legal team there last night, they were even surprised after the tribunal did decide that he was guilty of intentionally striking Jed Lamb, that he would walk away with 2 weeks. So we've seen players before challenge tribunal decisions and go to the appeals tribunal a couple of days later. And normally that's for charges that are manifestly excessive. But on this case, as you mentioned in the headlines, it was manifestly inadequate. And that is the grounds that the AFL will challenge this on at the appeals board tomorrow night. So Simon Lethlean, the AFL operations manager, spoke earlier this afternoon. Now, he couldn't take questions because this is something that's going ahead of the appeals board tomorrow night. But the key thing to listen for here is right near the end of his statement where he makes it clear they're not appealing this case because of the perception that Basher Hooley's character, and we know he had references from Malcolm Turnbull, Walid Ali and Mark Williams, was brought too much into the final decision. This is what Simon Lethlean had to say earlier today.
Thanks everyone for coming. I think Patrick's outlined I can't take any questions, but I have a statement to read to you now. As AFL General Manager of Football Operations, I have today notified the AFL Appeals Board Tribunal and the Richmond Football Club that the AFL has lodged an appeal against the decision of the tribunal last night in the case in which Basher Hooley was given a 2-match suspension for striking Carlton's Jed Lamb. The tribunal panel adjudged the player to be guilty of an intentional strike which made high contact and caused high impact. The AFL is appealing this decision under Regulation 19.2 on the grounds that, amongst other things, the sanction imposed by the tribunal last night was manifestly inadequate. In conclusion, I want to stress that the AFL takes impact to the head extremely seriously, and this appeal is based on the AFL's view in relation to the sanction imposed and not a judgment on the character evidence or the character of Basher Hooley in general. I will not be able to take any questions as the AFL will put forward its position to the AFL Appeals Board Tribunal tomorrow night. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was Simon Lethlean there, the AFL operations manager. And as I said before, there's been a lot of focus on how much the character of Basher Hooley was taken into this decision last night. And that was basically because Wayne Hedwood, the spokesperson for the jury last night, after handing down the 2-week sentence, did add the fact that rarely has the tribunal seen a person of such integrity and character brought in front of the tribunal. So that's been a big talking point today. A lot of people have been asked for their thoughts on just how much someone's character should come into a decision at the tribunal. And John Morsfold, the Essendon coach, had an interesting take. This is what he had to say this morning.
I think the part of being a good bloke would be his record more than anything, that if he hasn't ever been suspended or up at a tribunal, I'm sure that deserves to be taken into account. In terms of his manners and all that sort of thing, from all I understand, he is a lovely young man. But yeah, there's rules that we've got to play by. Does he get leniency on a chopping the arms spoil because he's a lovely bloke? I hope not.
So, Tom, we'll be back here tomorrow night. The AFL Appeals Board is made up of 3 men: Peter O'Callaghan, Brian Collis, who's a former head of the AFL Tribunal, and also Mike Green, a well-known barrister, and also a 4-time Richmond Premiership player from the 60s and 70s.
Thank you so much to Julian de Stoop there from the update from AFL House. OK, let's get into the nitty-gritty, and I'm joined by Chief AFL reporter Jake Nile. Jake, has the AFL made the right call here to appeal this?
Absolutely, Tom. It's the right call. Bearing in mind, from what I gather, Simon Lethlean, who made the decision, he felt he didn't have a choice based on the criteria that are set in the guidelines. This is not a 2-week suspension. The guy's been knocked unconscious, off the ball. They classified it as high impact and high and intentional, and yet it's gone. Now, he got the discount, but really it should have been 4-3. I think most people around the industry agree with that. You've been around the footy industry for a long time. Is this the most staggering tribunal outcome that you've seen in your time? I've seen a few, so I'm not sure I can say that. But of the last 2 years, yes. I'd say the last couple of years. And it's a huge departure from AFL way of doing things to appeal it. Now, the AFL have been relatively close to appealing cases before. Which cases has the AFL been really close to appealing? Well, one that I gathered from the AFL today that they were extremely close to appealing was a case involving Adam Cooney, the Brownlow medalist, in 2015. And he collected Stephen Cornelio in that incident, and he got, I think, 1 week. There was character evidence from Rodney Eade, and got it, even though it was quite a bad collision, he got that one knocked down. That's one. I think there was another one involving, Richmond's Reece Conker, who, of course, collected a player in the back of the head, and that went to the MRP and they gave him a lenient sentence. They went close to not appealing it for the tribunal, but to challenge the match review panel by sending it to the tribunal. And there's been a ream of them, but for some reason they've never done it. So it's a big step forward for the judicial process of the AFL to do this, and maybe there'll be more of them, albeit if you get it right the first time, you don't have to do it, do you? OK, what's Richmond's take on this? Well, they're not happy, but I think they wonder what manifestly inadequate actually means, and they feel that the tribunal applied its rules in giving him the discount. So they're sticking to that. I think if I look at what Basher Hooley can do, he can still challenge the intentional part of it, because he was found to have done it intentionally. So when he goes to the tribunal tomorrow night, I would expect that's what they'll focus on. OK, Jake, a separate issue. Gill's sort of yearly dinner booze up with the coaches. What was on the agenda? Well, there was a duck dish apparently, plenty of good red wine, and some cheese, I'm told. But there was also the biggest topic was AFLX, this small short form of the game, 7-a-side that the AFL have proposed for the post-round 23 bye before the finals. And Gillan McLaughlin went on the sell to the 10 coaches that were there. That's the nine of the all the Victorian coaches bar Luke Beveridge from the Bulldogs and Chris Fagan. And that was the biggest topic. They also talked about the runner, and Gillan McLaughlin asked them, do you need the runner? And most of the coaches basically said, yes, we want to keep the runner. And they also talked about the rules, and probably the deliberate out of bounds is one of the biggest ones that came up. But the biggest topic that came up was the AFLX, and from what I'm told, the coaches were reasonably receptive to it. So they didn't knock it on the head, because there is concerns from coaches about whether players will get injured, but they were more receptive and open to it, and they wanted Gillan to explain why they were interested in doing it. So it looks like it's a good chance to get up if the coaches don't torpedo it, which doesn't sound like they will at this stage. Good stuff, Jake. Thank you. Stick around. We're going to be joined by Adam Simpson in the West very shortly. Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Well, Melbourne will have a depleted forward line when they host the Sydney Swans on Friday night. Jesse Hogan still isn't ready to return, while a couple of his star teammates have also been ruled out. Drew Jones has more.
Earlier in the week, the Demons described Jesse Hogan as a sneaky chance to take on the Swans on Friday night, but his coach Simon Goodwin has slammed the selection door shut.
No, he won't play this week, but he's getting closer. So it's good to have him doing some full training and back into it. So he's been doing a hell of a lot of work in the last couple of weeks. So he's getting very close, and he's getting very eager to start playing soon.
Hogan participated in his first full session today since successful surgery to treat testicular cancer. It now appears he's set for a return in round 16 when the Demons face the Blues.
He's got a few big sessions to come over the next sort of 6 or 7 days, so he's tracking along really well. We're encouraged by how he's progressing.
With Hogan still not available, the D's would have been hoping to regain Jack Watts. He's still not ready to return from a hamstring injury and didn't train today.
We're just taking it week by week with him at the moment. He can certainly run up to a reasonable speed, but he just can't quite hit top pace at the moment. So when that time comes, that's when he'll be available for selection.
Jeff Garlett did a fitness test today, but he'll also miss the clash with Sydney. Melbourne's forward depth set to be severely tested.
It does test us, but in some ways it's a great opportunity We think we're playing a certain way and a brand of footy that, we've got some guys in VFL footy that can come in and play the same way.
Simon Goodwin also defended the Demons' medical report from Saturday night after the Eagles successfully argued that Will Schofield's strike on Clayton Oliver had insufficient force to warrant a suspension.
It's a very basic medical report. There's 6 questions about was he assessed and did he have any ongoing effects, and the answer was he was assessed, but there's no ongoing effects and he'll continue to play. So to suggest that it was forceful enough to knock him over from our medical team was factually incorrect.
The D's match-up with Sydney is their only Friday night fixture of the season, with 55,000 fans expected to pack the MCG.
Sydney midfielder Zach Jones will come straight back into the side to face Melbourne after serving a 1-match ban for striking. And after seeing the controversial verdict on Basher Hooley at the tribunal, coach John Longmire says the Swans should have considered appealing Jones's charge.
Yes, we didn't have last night's precedent in front of us when we last week, so it was. I'm not sure whether Zach knows the Prime Minister, so I'm not sure whether that would have been a handy one or not.
Veteran Jared McVeigh and defender Alir are a chance of returning from injuries. Longmire will wait to see how they pull up after training today. OK, time to check in with Jared Waitley ahead of AFL 360. Jared, fair to say Basher Hooley may feature prominently in the show tonight.
It's nothing like a 4-day issue, is there, for a nightly program? We'll try to tie together all the theories and opinions of the day, and the AFL's proactive step where they've been so squeamish in the past to protect the system from its errors rather than just letting them fester, and what the case might look like tomorrow night.
OK, Jared, onto the footy. Massive game, well, certainly game of the round anyway. Giants up against Geelong, and you're joined by one of the stars.
John Patton, who's in terrific form this year, having kicked 22 goals so far. He's coming off a 4-goal bag against the Lions. He's got such a role to play when it's 1v3. They've absorbed an awful lot of adversity so far, the Giants, to be on top, a game clear and the premiership favourites. So we'll take the temperature with the Giants tonight.
Jared, thank you. Looking forward to it as always. And just an added bonus, Jeff Horn. He's also going to join the team ahead of his bout with Manny Pacquiao on Sunday. It's going to be another ripping show. Getting out, but still want to get your fix of footy news? Remember, you can always watch AFL Tonight via the Fox Sports app. Alrighty, after the break, Adam Simpson, he'll join us live. We're going to get his thoughts on the controversial tribunal rulings. Stick around. Hello and welcome back to AFL Tonight. All right, let's head to the West where Eagles coach Adam Simpson joins us live. Adam, thanks for your time. Let's begin with the tribunal. The Will Schofield incident. Not many clubs contest at the tribunal and win. You must be thrilled.
Yeah, look, I think the common sense rule came in that one, so we're glad it's come and gone and the right decision was made, and we'll move on pretty quick, as I'm sure Melbourne will as well.
Obviously he got off, but have you had a word to him about almost like a don't put yourself in that situation talk?
Yeah, look, I think every club wants to play on the edge, and it's been a bit of a focus of ours to be a little bit more physical in the last few weeks, and yeah, he's pretty fine line, and in the end it was borderline, wasn't it? So yeah, it's about as close as you want to get.
Adam, what about Clayton Oliver's role in this decision, on this incident? Were you disappointed in how easily he went to ground?
Oh, look, that's not for me to comment on. Look, all I can say is that the right decision was made in the end, in my opinion. We're just got to be careful about how we comment on these things after a game. I know coaches and officials can't comment on the tribunal, but we're just got to be careful with the players' access to social media and how they respond to those things. That, what can happen in the 24 hours after that can be damaging for both parties. So, like I said, not for me to comment on how we handled it, but I think we all learned a lesson over the weekend.
And what was that lesson?
Good question. No, we'll take the high road on that. We're going to be careful how hard we go about it, and I'm glad we took it to the tribunal and got the right decision.
Adam, just one more on the tribunal. What did you make when you heard that Basher Hooley had copped 2 weeks?
Yeah, look, I mean, these questions are really difficult to answer because there's a line that we can't cross. So, once again, I'm going to have to be pretty straightforward with the answer. the tribunal will work it out, and then the appeals board and how they go about it all will take care of itself in the next few days. But look, it's probably been a pretty good week for the AFL in terms of how they've handled it.
Yep, fair enough. OK, let's move on to the footy. The Demons lost. What did you do wrong in the final minutes?
Yeah, we went through the game, and we've had a couple of games like that this year, and we've had a couple of really good games that we've handled the pressure well. We didn't do a lot wrong, and Melbourne did a lot right, and won some critical contests throughout the last 6 or 7 minutes. We just couldn't get a composed possession, and due to good pressure and some really good contested work, some of the strategies we tried worked and some didn't, and unfortunately, in the end, we couldn't hold on for a win. The one lesson I suppose that we did learn from that is you can't just hang on to a game with 8 minutes to go. You got to win it. You got to score, and the way teams handle momentum now and try and arrest it and get it back is it's happening quicker and quicker each year. And this year, I think across the board, there's been pretty good responses when the game's on the line, and what they're willing to throw out there to win a game is probably a bit more aggressive than in the past years.
Now, Lewis Jetta had a pretty bad miss in the last quarter. That was a crucial moment. Was he too focused on the countdown clock, and have you had a word to him about it?
I haven't had a word to him about it. I did notice it in the box that I didn't know what he was doing, because he looks like he was looking at us in the box, but he was obviously looking at the countdown clock, and that's not his routine. So when there's 8 or 9 minutes to go, my advice, and I think he knows it, is just to go back, stick to your routine, and kick the goal. Whether that took him off his focus for his normal routine, it probably was, and I think Vardy missed a goal just before that. So doing a lot of things right in that quarter, and right up until that point we were really pressing the game, and unfortunately after that moment it was really hard to get control back.
Another crucial incident was the Shannon Hearn one, where he was collected by Jack Viney. Were you disappointed with that incident and surprised that there wasn't any MRP action?
I don't know how far I can go with that stuff. All I know is Shannon had his eyes on the ball. He's running back with the flight, and he copped probably a hip to the head or something to the head, and he's unavailable this week. So we're disappointed that he's not available, and we missed him for the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game. And he won't be playing this week.
OK, let's get an update on Nick Naitanui. It seems as though he's running out of time to play this year. Is it fair to say he's unlikely to return at all this year?
Yeah, he's a small chance. It's getting smaller by the week. He's going to travel overseas and do some intensive rehab, and that's always the plan. And we were hoping to do that early in the year, but at this stage it's getting pretty difficult. And once he gets back from overseas, we'll make a call on it. But yeah, it's getting towards the end of the year, and it's going to be pretty tough for him.
Do finals influence that decision, Adam, or does it come down to simply making a call relatively soon?
Yeah, I've had this discussion with Nick and with the rest of the club about how we handle that. It's got nothing to do with finals. If he's up and about and can make it towards the back half of the year and available in the last 3 or 4 rounds, we'll go for it. But if he's not, he's not. So it's not really based on whether we're playing finals or not. No, we'll separate the two and make that decision in the next few weeks.
Now you've recontracted Matt Priddis. Can you have Priddis and Sam Mitchell, your good mate, in the midfield next year?
Well, yeah, that question gets asked every few weeks, and no one asked that question after the Geelong game. And when you lose, obviously the scrutiny comes on. So, getting the balance is really important for us. We need to make sure we have got the right balance throughout our midfield, and we're looking for power and speed, and obviously ball winning ability. So both of them can play a role for us. In the long term, one of them will move on, and both of them will move on. But at the moment, we think our best footy's got both of them in the side.
Adam, what have you said to Sam about next year, and what is he saying back to you about his prospects of coaching or playing?
Yeah. Look, we're really open with our discussions, and a lot of what we decide next year has got to do with Sam, and it's also got to do with us. So we're mutual with our decision-making on this, and what's important is what's important for the club, and respecting what Sam wants as well. But he's a long-term investment. I've said this a lot of times before. His assets to us will be more about coaching in the long run. So whether that starts next year or the year after, it's yet to be determined, but he's still playing pretty good footy at the moment.
Adam, Mark Lacroix has obviously been around for a while, but he's got a bad hip. What are his chances of playing on?
Yeah, it's another one. We've got a few players getting towards the end of their careers, and I think their best is still very good, and some of them have been carrying injuries for a few weeks. Some of them are down on form. So He's got a bit of a hip at the moment. He may be available next week, so there's probably another kick in him this year, and we'll see how he goes at the back half of the year, and we'll make the decision at the end. But we've got probably 2 or 3 players who are getting at the back half of their careers, and those decisions probably aren't. It's probably a bit early to make those calls yet.
Adam, we always appreciate your time on AFL Tonight, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, boys.
Well, it's certainly not the best news for Adelaide's Tom Lynch. The forward has been ruled out of this weekend's game against Carlton with a viral infection. Coach Don Pike says symptoms appeared Monday afternoon and they're unsure of the seriousness of the infection.
He's got something viral. We're doing some tests at the moment to work out what that is, but the indication from the doctor is he's not going to be available this week, so we'll see how the results come up and take it from there.
Speedster Charlie Cameron is also in doubt and was a no-show at training as he continues to recover from a wrist injury. Fremantle are set for a huge boost this weekend with Nat Fyfe and Aaron Sandilands likely to return against St Kilda. Sandilands has been sidelined since round 9 due to hamstring tendinitis, while Fyfe missed last weekend's loss to Geelong with a bruised sternum. Fyfe could play a different role upon his return, with the Brownlow medalist set to spend a bit more time up forward.
Mundy's in really good midfield form, and Hill and Neal and those guys, and the move of Lockie well to the wing makes us more flexible. So I think it does avail itself for Nathan to go forward, because we know he's an absolute strength down there in the air and a competitive beast. So, and just having him around will make Kirsten and McCarthy and everyone walk a bit taller. There's no doubt about that.
Fremantle's injury list is starting to look a lot better, and the signs are positive for Harley Bennell, with the former Gold Coast player building towards a return from persistent calf injuries. The controversial recruit hasn't played AFL since 2015, but could only be weeks away from a potential Docker debut. Greater Western Sydney veteran Stevie J is no stranger when it comes to facing old teammates. The Giants prepare to take on his former club and fellow top 4 heavyweights Geelong this Saturday. With an extensive injury list, GWS haven't had the cleanest run this season, but Johnson is confident it won't hinder their finals hopes.
You know, when you think about premiership teams, the Bulldogs didn't have the best run themselves last year, so you can look at it as a negative, but I guess the positive for us is we've been able to win enough games to be thereabouts so far, but we need to continue that form on and give ourselves every chance to launch at the finals with a fresh list.
Josh Kelly, Rory Lobb and Devon Smith all trained well today and are a chance to return this weekend. Well, he's looked pretty unconvincing at training so far this week, but John Worsfold is confident Cale Hooker could return from a dislocated finger for Sunday's clash against Brisbane at Etihad.
Should be right, yeah, should be right. Yeah, there's only the only minor risk if he splits the stitches open in training. So we're obviously taking precaution that doesn't happen, but yeah, everything else is tracking well.
Essendon's meltdown against the Swans on Friday night even featured on ESPN's Sports Centre in the US. But what was Worsfold's reaction in the aftermath?
I saw the disappointment on in their body language, in their faces, and in their talk to each other post game. That they didn't need someone like me to stand up and say, "I'm a genius. We're disappointed." You know, they knew that.
With 9 games to go, the Bombers currently sit in 11th on the ladder, but they're just 1 game outside of the top 8. Well, tune in tomorrow for AFL Tonight. We're joined by Collingwood's Adam Treloar, ahead of the Pies clash with the Hawks. And that's all we have time for on AFL Tonight. We'll see you soon.
The Demons and the Swans are fighting for a finals berth.
He's a gun!
Who will land the killer blow? Footy's best pre-halftime and post-game coverage. Melbourne, Sydney, live Friday on Fox Footy.
She might be getting legal advice after an unfortunate event, or discussing her divorce settlement. She might be talking about whether she can challenge the will of her late mother or father. Client confidentiality prevents us from saying, but we can tell you she's speaking with one of the top lawyers in his field, and that her case is being handled with skill, care and commitment. Slater and Gordon. Your case is our cause.
I see me in you, you and me. I see me in you, you and me.
New Despicable Me 3 Family Box. All your favourites, plus new potato minions. Made for sharing, made for family. Despicable Me 3 now in cinemas.
How fast is your internet, Australia? Maybe it's time to put a rocket up it. My Republic has just landed from Singapore, home of super fast internet.
Blast off now! Experience the
Fastest NBN speed available up to 100 megabits per second for just $59.99 a month and just $1 up front. With a real Australian call centre. Call 1300 GO FAST and give your internet a blast with My Republic.
So, the Lions team is made up of England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales.
Yep.
And the New Zealand team is made up of New Zealand?
Yep.
They've got a population of 66 million.
Yep.
And there's 4.5 million of us.
Yep.
Sounds fair.
Oh, yeah.
This program brought to you by Dankarub and Tab. We love a bet.